Hey fam, I want you to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Roland S. Martin. And don't forget to turn on your notifications. It all goes really back to 2010, when Republicans flipped a number of state houses and legislatures and governor's mansions as a result. And then, of course, what happened after that, we saw 2 years later when Shelby B. Holder came before the Supreme Court that gutted a key component of the Voting Rights Act. And then we saw massive voter suppression. Well, that also was a result of political gerrymandering. Today, before the Supreme Court, the North Carolina districts went before. Now, here's the deal, y'all. North Carolina is a state evenly split between Republicans and Democrats. In fact, actually, there really are more registered Democrats in North Carolina than Republicans. But Republicans control 10 of 13 seats. That is nuts. Now, the Supreme Court heard that, and the map was drawn by the Republican legislature that a lower court said specifically targeted African Americans, Malik, with almost surgical precision. This case could decide whether partisan maps by Republicans and Democrats all over the country could be immune from challenges of selective voter disenfranchisement. Now, during oral arguments, the justices seemed to be split on ideological lines. Liberal justices asking whether drawing districts to help one party violates the one man, one vote standard. Conservative justices seem to incline to keep the court out of the fight altogether. Of course, there are 5 conservative justices. And on this deal, Darlene, I want to start with you. Anthony Kennedy was that critical vote where he said there could be a point where this thing had reached political gerrymandering and it was bad. The Supreme Court has been trying to stay out of this by saying we don't want to get involved with partisan battles, but it has reached the point now where you had in Pennsylvania where they threw out those districts. They threw them out. North Carolina Republicans filed suit. In fact, Republicans in Pennsylvania were so treacherous, they tried to impeach the state Supreme Court justices who actually ruled on it. That's how vile they were. In Michigan, the voters said we need to have an independent commission that draws lines to take this thing out of Republican and Democrats' hand, because the gerrymandering has got so bad. You look at Wisconsin, that case went before the Supreme Court. They kicked it back as well. Just your assessment of this issue and really how contentious it is, and how people really they hear gerrymandering but not realize this does have a direct impact on who represents you.
It does, because it affects, the population count. The census is coming up. All of that determines federal money for different programs that goes to states. A lot of spending is based on congressional districts and so on and so forth. But you mentioned the point that last year the Supreme Court punted on some of these cases, and there's no guarantee that after hearing these arguments today that they will actually rule one way or the other. They could find a way out of it again.
I think it's important to point out, I think one of the other cases that they're considering here is the Maryland gerrymandering case, where you familiar?
No, yes, I'm familiar. Yeah. I knew you were going to bring that up. I knew it was coming.
No, hold up. For the purpose of the audience, how extensive is gerrymandering in Maryland?
Well, I think it was, what, 1 district, I think it was?
Maryland's solidly blue.
I think that particular case.
It was 1 district.
I think I think it was 1 district.
How many was in Pennsylvania?
Whether
the whole state?
Whether it was 1.
How many? No,
we should be concerned about this, right?
No, first of all, again, for the purpose of facts.
Okay.
10 out of 13 in North Carolina. So really the entire the entire North Carolina congressional delegation is impacted by gerrymandering.
Right, but the SCOTUS are still ruling on the gerrymandering case too in Maryland.
No, I'm aware of that. Okay. No, but what I'm trying to show you is that if you actually step back, because North Carolina also has some issues, New Jersey does. If you look at which party stop. No, hold on. You can shake your head. I'm trying to establish a set of facts, not offering an opinion. The facts don't lie. In terms of who has utilized racial gerrymandering and political gerrymandering to their benefit, I can show you Republicans in Pennsylvania, Republicans in North Carolina, Republicans in Wisconsin. I can go Republicans in Michigan. I can go down the line. So what I'm saying is, one of the reasons why Mitch McConnell did not want Merrick Garland on this court, because they understood that these cases were coming before and they needed that 5th vote to to ensure these things stay the same.
Well,
go ahead with your one district.
But Maryland is still one of the cases that the Supreme Court is.
No, I got
considering.
you.
So
just showing impact.
But even though, and I don't think it's Wisconsin that they're considering.
I say the previous. I just said you didn't hear me right. I said the Supreme Court previously looked at Wisconsin, kicked the case back to the lower court. This case came forward because Republicans in North Carolina are now scared to death because they've lost the supermajority. There's now a Democratic governor, and they now are desperate because they can now lose. This is one of the final pieces of Republican leverage in North Carolina. Now they lost the supermajority, and because they also tried to strip the state Supreme Court of all of their power because now it's now dominated by Democrats. But go ahead with your final comment.
I am a quick study, so I am not going to argue with you about the number of states.
That is very wise.
The involvement.
You are a very wise man.
But what I will say, we do need to acknowledge that of the Maryland gerrymandering.
Yes,
case.
absolutely.
So that's something that we do need to acknowledge. I'm not going to win the which party does more.
Because you can't win.
No, you won't win.
Because you know I'm not lying.
So I'm not going to do that.
Doc, final comment? Anything you want to say? Any topic, whatever, what you got?
Yeah, well, I guess as far as gerrymandering and racial gerrymandering, we know that it's one-sided. So I don't think that there's much more I can say other than the fact that this is going to be, help our democracy, help the fact that, more people are enfranchised, whereas Republicans have historically, at least in the last 30 years and 40 years, been the party that has tried to take people's votes away through voter ID, through gerrymandering, through many other ways.
Darlene?
I just await the ruling from the Supreme Court in June.
Oh, no. You can do a comment on anything you want. Any of the topics, just whatever, sort of like final comment on anything.
Well, that's my comment.
All right, go ahead. Go ahead and finish it. I interrupted you. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say I await the Supreme Court ruling in June or whenever they decide.
Malik?
I agree with Darlene. How about that?
Gotcha. All right, folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment. Calling all HBCU alumni, students, and leaders enter the Ford Motor Company HBCU Mobility Challenge and win $25,000 for your school. Building on their long-term support of HBCUs, Ford is looking to improve mobility in HBCU communities through innovative solutions. The winning program will receive a grant of up to $25,000 to implement their proposal. The deadline to apply is March 31st, 2019. Go to this website right here, FGB.Life, for more information and to apply. Ford goes further in our community. We certainly appreciate them being a partner here at Roland Martin Unfiltered. Now back to your Roland Martin Unfiltered video.